Right, so on Saturday night, we saw one of the most exciting prospects in British boxing right now return to the ring when former Olympian Ben Whittaker took on somewhat of an unknown quantity in Liam Cameron. And what initially started off as a really good domestic fight that was going to help us work out just how far off Ben Whittaker was from big name fights has since turned into a media storm, with many people accusing Ben Whittaker of both quitting and faking an injury when the fight was perceived to be not going his way. So as always, I want to take a much deeper dive into this one and give you guys my thoughts. But before we get into all that, people, welcome back to the Joey Knight Boxing channel. If you are new around here, please do me a massive favour. I'm working really hard on trying to get videos out to you guys from this channel, so please hit the subscribe button, please hit the like button on this video. Let's get into it. Right, so the first thing that we need to do here is dispel the general perception that was going around before the fight that this was neither a close or competitive fight for Ben Whittaker, because myself and the Pain Game boys were out in Riyadh, and if you look back at any bit of footage we did around the fight, we were telling anyone that would listen that Liam Cameron was a huge step up and therefore would provide a huge test for Ben Whittaker, because records in boxing can be hugely misleading. And when you look at Liam Cameron's record going into this fight, you would see those 6 losses and you would assume that this wasn't a step up for Ben Whittaker, and the 12-0 guy that he fought and beat last time out would have been a better opponent than Liam Cameron. But that is why records are misleading, because Liam Cameron was head and shoulders, both in the amateur ranks and the pro ranks, above anything that Ben Whittaker had been in there with so far. But there's a reason why at just 8-0 Ben Whittaker has captured the imagination of the boxing public and even transcended into the casual audience, because since turning pro, this man has not gone about his business quietly. Whittaker's flashy showboating style has been there for all to see since his pro debut, where he has pretty much been embarrassing before beating every man that he has stepped in a ring with. He's been playing with his food before he eats it, basically, and I, for one, have no problem with the showboating antics. Boxing is a very short career, and you need to squeeze every bit of juice out of that career while you can. So if you can do something on the way up that will make people want to watch you, and therefore make you more of a commodity to the promotion, then why wouldn't you? Because if you look at other British light heavyweights from recent times, like Anthony Yarde and Joshua Buatsi respectively, these guys were still fighting journeymen around their 8th fight and nowhere near British level. And take it from someone who was watching both guys' career right from the start, they were demanding nowhere near the interest that Ben Whittaker is at this stage in their careers. I mean, mate, if you don't believe me, have a look at the social media following. Buatsi, after 19 fights, has 120,000 followers on Instagram. Anthony Yarde, after 28 fights, has around 250,000 followers on Instagram. And Ben Whittaker, after 9 fights, has over 3 million Instagram followers. That is mental. And that following and media attention will translate into money you earn, from brands wanting to work with you to how much promoters pay you to be on their shows. So the route that Ben Whittaker has gone down and the showboating style he has shown throughout is definitely something that I don't have any problem with. But there's a saying, isn't there? If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And that means as much as I have no problem with you taking centre stage, trash talking, and let's be honest, when you get in the ring, embarrassing some of these opponents, when you do come up short, the criticism is going to be 100 times louder than it would be for your average British boxing prospect. And this is where Liam Cameron comes into things, because Turki Al Sheikh has made it clear so far that on Riyadh season, no fighter will be wrapped in cotton wool. This is not a place to come and carefully build your career. Riyadh season is a place to come and roll the dice. A place to come and back your ability, and therefore a place where you will need to take huge risks. You'll be well paid, but you will also be well matched. And therefore Liam Cameron was seen as the ideal opponent for us to really find out just how good Ben Whittaker is right now. Liam Cameron was coming off the back of a split decision loss to Lyndon Arthur, and I was really impressed by that performance, because anyone who doesn't know Liam Cameron or his story may well want to look further into this, as this isn't the usual story, to say the least. Liam Cameron turned pro around 15 years ago, and he would take risky fights across multiple weight divisions, both winning and losing some in the process. And after working his way up a very unconventional footpath, the Sheffield man boxed a former gym mate of my own in Nick Gemman. And Nick Gemman was a very good fighter and tough as old boots, but not tough enough, because Liam Cameron was able to stop Nick Gemman in just the second round. However, this was where things all fell apart for Liam Cameron, as his post-fight drug test revealed the use of a Class A banned substance. Now, I'm not going to say the name of that substance on this video, because I'm not sure if it will get me demonetized, but just do a little Google search and you'll quickly find out what that substance is. And once you do find out what that drug is, maybe you will come to the conclusion that I did, which is that a 4-year ban is really harsh, especially when you look at cases like Jarrell Big Baby Miller, where he was found with multiple performance enhancers in his system and only given a 2-year ban. Now, I'm not condoning the use of any prohibited substances, by the way, but I personally don't see how having a small amount of this in your system, which Liam Cameron did, would actually be of any benefit to you in your fight. I actually think if you were using this drug on a regular occurrence, it's probably going to be a hindrance to your preparation and the fight itself. But listen, what do I know? I'm no doctor, so you can make your own mind up on that. And Liam Cameron has actually long since denied that he took the substance. He did even appeal the decision of a 4-year ban, but that appeal was knocked back, and this is when Liam Cameron's life really started to deteriorate. Cameron tragically lost his stepdaughter in a road accident around the same time as his ban from boxing, and his life completely spiraled out of control, gaining over 7 stone and becoming heavily addicted to alcohol. But thankfully, 5 years on from his ban, and after turning his life around, Liam Cameron returned to boxing, and he was not looking to waste any time at all, getting 3 fights in quick succession before taking a huge leap of faith and stepping up to challenge former world title challenger Lyndon Arthur. Now, you guys can go and score that fight yourself, but either way, even in defeat, Cameron's stock rose, and therefore he was presented with the opportunity to box rising star Ben Whittaker on a Riyadh season card. So now let's fast forward to fight night. Whittaker started off really well in this one, but Cameron was constantly firing back and never really seemed to be under any sort of real pressure. I personally thought that Whittaker was boxing well, and I had no problem with the fact that we weren't seeing the same sort of showboating antics from the former Olympian that we had seen up until now. I think, like we've seen with another former Olympian, Josh Kelly, that showboating style will somewhat evaporate when you really step up the level, and I've got no problem with it. The most important thing in boxing is winning. And speaking of winning, I had both Whittaker and Cameron winning 2 rounds apiece, with 1 round even after 5. However, this fight did start to feel like the momentum was shifting towards Liam Cameron, especially during that 5th round. Now, for me, Ben Whittaker was showing decent punch resistance in this one and a level of toughness that we hadn't seen forced out of him up until this point. But Liam Cameron was very much welcoming Ben Whittaker to the pro ranks, and in my opinion, using rough but fair tactics. Liam Cameron was finding a home for a beautiful clubbing right hand high on the head of Ben Whittaker, and the body shots from Liam Cameron was something that was going really under the radar in my opinion. I honestly couldn't split the two going into the 6th, but this is where the fight abruptly ended. Liam Cameron appeared to force Whittaker back to the ropes. Ben Whittaker appeared to go over the ropes, and in doing so appeared to injure himself. Now, I know what you're thinking. What was the injury? Fuck knows. You tell me. No one knows at this moment in time. It kind of looked like Ben Whittaker motioned towards his ankle. But until we get some sort of update from Whittaker or his team, which as of right now we haven't, your guess is as good as mine. But what I do know is that Liam Cameron got back in the ring and was ready to continue. And Ben Whittaker was not able to continue, even leaving the ring in a wheelchair. Now, immediately on the Pain Game live stream from inside the arena, both myself and my good friend Lawrence Alswecki he did question the legitimacy of the injury. And listen, if an x-ray, if a scan, if a medical report comes out in the coming days, I will wholeheartedly hold my hands up and eat my words here. But the part that I really struggled to get my head around is the fact that there was no clear evidence of an injury. Because yes, both men fell backwards over the ropes, but you would feel either a head, a back, or a neck injury would be the most obvious one, as they were the first points of contact that would have landed, whereas Whitaker's legs and feet trailed behind him. Now, the initial narrative was that Liam Cameron pushed Ben Whittaker back over the ropes, but upon watching the footage back a few more times, it does somewhat seem like Ben Whittaker also leans back over the ropes, and also the ropes did seem to be loose on the night, which is never good. I know Liam Cameron spoke in a couple of interviews since about the fact that he feels that Ben Whittaker pulled him back over the ropes, and I suppose this is why this topic has sparked fierce debate online. Now, I would purely be guessing, to be honest, but honest is something that I do try and be consistently on this channel, and I'd have to admit that my gut instinct tells me that Ben Whittaker should have at least tried to continue. Once again, if the injury is really bad, then there is absolutely no shame in living to fight another day. Look at how Daniel Dubois' career has panned out after he was seen to have quit during fights with an injury. But as someone who has suffered a torn ligament while boxing, I would say that it wasn't until I actually stood up and put pressure on that foot where the ligament was torn that I really knew the severity of my injury. Either way, one thing I do know is that when I tore my ligament in boxing, I definitely wasn't going and punching no holes in no walls straight away after, you know? I mean, to be honest, I was in too much pain. And I probably couldn't punch a hole in a wall. Maybe a thin one. Either way, I want to know what you guys think of the ending to this fight and the apparent injury. Whose fault, if either, was it that the fighters went over the ropes? And should Ben Whittaker have attempted to continue? The funny thing is, right, it's very easy to assume that Ben Whittaker wanted out because the fight had swung in Liam Cameron's favour. But I don't know, man. Fights do swing from one fighter to another, and there's nothing concrete to tell me that if that hadn't have happened, Ben Whittaker couldn't have had a great 6th round and therefore swung the fight back in his favour. But is there a chance that Ben Whittaker may have known that after 5 rounds, if you are unable to continue, it does go to the scorecards? And Ben Whittaker may have thought that he was up on the scorecards at that moment in time, and therefore may have made the choice to end the fight prematurely. Yes, there is a chance. Just as big a chance, I suppose, that he was badly injured and therefore could not continue. So I know you lot want me to give you an answer on this one, but I've got to say, the jury's still out. One thing the jury isn't out on, though, is the fact that I think we would all agree there is only one fight now for Ben Whittaker next, and that has got to be the Liam Cameron rematch. Because not only does Cameron deserve the rematch, so do we. I was absolutely buzzing for this one, and this fight was playing out almost exactly how I expected it to, with Whittaker being tested more than any pro fight he has had in the past, and both men having success on one another. Now, the official result was a technical decision draw on the scorecards, and despite some of Liam Cameron's team arguing it, I personally won't. You can beg the question of if Whittaker chose not to continue, then should the fight have gone to the scorecards? But if Whittaker was unable to continue, then we know it goes to the scorecards, and I personally felt like the fight was completely even going into that 6th round. Now, an ideal outcome for me would be that Ben Whittaker's injury is a minor one, he can quickly get over it, and we can get the rematch scheduled in for one of the next Riyadh season cards, maybe ideally Fury against Usyk. But if Ben Whittaker wants to go away now and have somewhat of a rebuilding process, then I've got to be honest, that process is not going to be on Riyadh season. So the real question is, does Ben Whittaker roll the dice and go straight back in with Liam Cameron? Because Liam Cameron will definitely be ready to go straight back in with Ben Whittaker. Now, early on in his career, David Haye took a loss to Carl Thompson, never avenged it, and still went on to achieve great things. Tyson Fury won a controversial decision over John McDermott and had a couple of rebuilding fights in the meantime before going back in and rematching McDermott. So sometimes these things do happen and fighters end up going other routes and it works out. But for me personally, I want to see it run back next. And I'm going to take the assumption here and say that so do you lot. So please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what fight you want to see next for both men. I'm guessing it's going to be the rematch, but if not, who do you want to see them pit off against? And once again, please do me a massive favour. I'm making a big effort on this channel now, so if you're not already, which a lot of you aren't that watch the videos by the way, please hit the subscribe button, give me a like if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.